Most people think manifestation is about forcing your mind to stay positive, repeating affirmations until you're blue in the face, or trying to outthink fear with more control. But here's the paradox. The very state you're in when you try to control everything is what blocks the signal you're sending out. Your nervous system is not just a background program, it's the broadcaster. And if it's flooded with survival mode, the frequency you radiate can't carry the message you actually intend. Think about the last time your phone was in a spot with no reception. You could type the message perfectly. You could press send, but nothing went through. It wasn't about your words. It was about the signal. That's exactly what happens when you try to manifest while your body is still locked in stress patterns from old experiences. Here's the truth that changes everything. Your nervous system doesn't just respond to reality. It chooses which version of reality you can even access. It decides whether you only see timelines filled with fear and scarcity, or whether you're able to tune into parallel timelines where safety, connection, and abundance already exist. The reason you felt stuck, the reason it seems like you repeat the same cycles over and over, is not because you lack discipline or clarity. It's because your system hasn't been reset to recognize that a new frequency is safe. And until that reset happens, the body resists the very future you're trying to call in. What I want to show you in this method is how manifestation isn't separate from healing. The moment your nervous system learns safety, your signal sharpens. Your field clears. The reality you've been chasing stops feeling like it's outside you and starts reflecting back as if it had always been waiting. When I first learned about the observer effect, it sounded abstract. Scientists say that the very act of observing a particle changes its behavior. But here's what struck me. If simply looking alters reality at the quantum level, what happens when you're not just observing with your eyes, but with your entire nervous system, your emotions, your posture, the way your heart is beating? That's the true observation, and it carries far more weight than fleeting thoughts. Think of it like tuning a radio. The universe has infinite stations, all playing right now. There's a station where your worst fears play on loop, a station where you barely scrape by, and a station where love, health, and flow are already real. They don't disappear just because you're not listening. They're all humming in the background. The question is, which one is your body tuned to? Your conscious mind is like the hand turning the dial. It can say, I want abundance, or I want peace. But if the nervous system is vibrating on the survival channel, the signal won't lock. You get static, mixed messages, half results. That's why you may notice moments of synchronicity and then suddenly crash back into old patterns. It's not inconsistency from the universe. It's misalignment between your mind's choice and your body's broadcast. Embodiment is the bridge. When you inhabit a new frequency, literally feel it in your muscles, your breath, your chest, your whole being becomes the observer, collapsing that station into reality. You're not just thinking abundance, you're transmitting it with coherence. That's when the signal cuts through the noise and the timeline locks in. Here's what most people miss. You don't need to force thoughts or micromanage outcomes. You need to create safety in the body so the dial can finally stay on the station you've chosen. Because when the nervous system feels safe, it allows you to hold a new frequency long enough for reality to reorganize around it. So the real question isn't, how do I think the right thoughts? It's, how do I retune my system so it naturally stays on the frequency of the future I desire? And that's where the first myth begins to unravel. One of the biggest myths in manifestation is the idea that you just need to think harder, visualize longer, or stack more affirmations to overpower resistance. People treat it like mental weightlifting, believing that if they just push their mind with enough force, reality will have to give in. But here's the trap. That effort usually comes from a body still in tension. And when your nervous system is in tension, it's like trying to tune a radio with shaky hands. You never land clearly on the station. Let's take a real moment you might recognize. Picture yourself waiting for a text reply from someone who matters to you. Maybe it's a new connection. Maybe it's someone you've opened your heart to. You send the message, you feel the hit of vulnerability, and then silence. Hours pass. Your body tightens. Your mind starts running stories. And here's the key. Your whole system is now broadcasting a frequency of scarcity, of not being chosen, of fear. In that moment, you might tell yourself affirmations. I am worthy, I am loved. You might visualize them writing back. But underneath, your body is humming on the survival station. That's the signal the field is picking up. And the frustrating part? That incoherence often attracts more silence or confusing responses, because reality mirrors not the polished words in your head, but the embodied frequency you radiate. This doesn't mean your desire is wrong. It doesn't mean you aren't worthy of love. It simply reveals that the method of force thought skips the real dial, your nervous system. The station can only change when the body shifts from defense into openness. That's when the frequency holds steady enough for the universe to reflect it back. So instead of fighting yourself with more effort, the path forward is counterintuitive. It's about slowing the signal, breathing safety back into the body, and allowing the nervous system to retune. When the body feels safe, waiting doesn't feel like panic. Silence doesn't feel like rejection. And from that regulated state, your frequency says, I am secure, I am already chosen. That's when replies start flowing in, not because you forced them, but because your signal finally cleared. The myth is that you need to think stronger. The truth is, you need to embody clearer. And that brings us to the most overlooked gateway in this whole process, your nervous system itself. Your nervous system is the hidden switchboard of manifestation. You can't skip it. You can't trick it. You can't plaster positivity over a body that feels unsafe and expect the signal to land. Safety is the gatekeeper, because only when your system feels safe can it allow coherence between mind, heart, and body. Without that coherence, the broadcast scatters. With it, the frequency is clean. This is where so many people misunderstand the process. They imagine that manifestation is only about visualizing the goal. But what they don't see is that if your nervous system is stuck in fight, flight, or freeze, no vision can hold long enough to lock in. It's like trying to project a movie on a screen that keeps flickering off. The image never stabilizes. So let's make this practical. I want to guide you through something you can do right now. If you're listening, soften your gaze or close your eyes. Notice your breath without changing it. Just watch the rhythm for a moment. Now, bring your hand gently to your chest and feel the rise and fall under your palm. Take one deeper inhale, and as you exhale, imagine the air flowing down into your belly, grounding you. Do that again, slower this time. Now picture the radio dial we spoke about earlier. Sense your body as the antenna. With every exhale, imagine you're clearing static, releasing all the tiny tensions that have kept you tuned to the survival station. Shoulders drop, jaw softens, stomach loosens. And with each inhale, imagine your body beginning to glow with the frequency you want to hold. Calm, steady, open. Rest here for one more breath, letting your system register. It is safe now. That simple shift, 30 seconds of safety, has more power to reset your frequency than 30 hours of anxious affirmations. Why? Because the nervous system doesn't lie. When it feels safe, the body broadcasts coherence. The signal is pure. And coherence is what collapses the quantum station you've chosen into physical experience. You don't have to be perfect at this. You don't have to live in endless peace. You simply need to know how to return your body to safety when it drifts. That return is the reset button. And every time you press it, you strengthen the station you want to live from. But safety alone isn't the whole picture. There's a deeper layer that explains why some people can feel calm for moments and still not see the shift they long for. It has to do with the difference between temporary states and the identity you actually embody. One of the sneakiest traps in this journey is confusing state with identity. States are powerful. They're the moments where your body shifts into safety, where you feel clear, where you can sense the signal cleaning up. But a state is like catching a song on the radio for a few minutes before it fades into static again. Identity is different. Identity is the entire preset. It's the default station your system always returns to, even when you're not paying attention. Here's the issue. A lot of manifestation advice focuses only on creating peak states. Do a meditation, feel abundant for 10 minutes, then go back to your life. And while those glimpses matter, they don't always stick. Because unless the nervous system adopts a new identity, unless it begins to recognize this frequency is who I am now, you'll keep snapping back to the old baseline. It's why you can leave a retreat feeling unstoppable and then, 2 weeks later, be back in the same self-doubt. The station temporarily shifted, but the dial hadn't clicked into a new identity. and the nervous system is loyal to identity above all. It will always recreate the version of reality that matches who you believe yourself to be at the deepest embodied level. So the real work is not just creating calm, clear moments. It's letting your system rehearse that calm as your new normal. When peace feels familiar, when abundance feels safe, when love feels expected, the nervous system says, "This is me." And from that place, you're not just borrowing a frequency, you're living on it. Think of the difference this way. A state is like visiting a new city for a weekend. Identity is moving there permanently, changing your address, setting up your home. Once you've made the move, you don't have to think about whether you belong. You just wake up and live inside it. This is why the body's reset is so essential. A calm nervous system is the bridge that makes identity shifts possible. Because when you're safe, you can actually receive the evidence of a new reality and let it sink in as yours. Without that safety, the nervous system treats new possibilities like threats and shuts them out. So if you've wondered why moments of clarity don't always last, it's not because you're failing. It's because you've touched a state, but the deeper invitation is to step into identity. And once identity shifts, something extraordinary unfolds. Your entire timeline begins to reorganize. Identity doesn't just shape how you feel, it literally selects the timeline you live on. Remember the radio metaphor? Each timeline is a station already playing. One station is debt, bills piling up, and constant anxiety. Another station is stability, opportunities, and money flowing in unexpected ways. Both are real. Both exist. But the station you live on isn't chosen by the thoughts you occasionally visit. It's chosen by the identity your nervous system broadcasts consistently. Let's take a scenario that so many people know all too well. Money pressure. Imagine the moment a bill lands in your inbox. Your chest tightens, your stomach drops. Immediately, the nervous system fires up an old identity. I am someone who never has enough. From that identity, the station you lock onto is scarcity. Suddenly, even if opportunities are nearby, you can't perceive them. You scroll job boards but see nothing. You have ideas but second-guess them. Your whole system filters reality to confirm the scarcity station. Now, contrast that with a nervous system that has shifted identity. Same bill arrives, but instead of spiraling, the body remains steady. The underlying broadcast is, I am someone who always finds a way. That identity tunes you to a different station entirely. On this frequency, you notice conversations where someone mentions a new opening. You feel the courage to pitch your skills instead of shrinking. You see creative angles to earn that you couldn't spot before. The external event hasn't changed, but the timeline you're tuned into has. Identity is like setting your radio to a permanent channel. The moment your nervous system believes a new identity is safe, reality starts feeding you evidence that matches it. And here's where the loop deepens. Every piece of confirming evidence then strengthens the identity further, making the new frequency even more natural. This is why willpower alone never works for long. You can push against scarcity thoughts, but if your body is still identified as the one who never has enough, the station stays locked. Only when you inhabit a new identity, through safety, through coherence, through embodiment, does the dial actually click into place. The beauty of this is that once the identity shift happens, manifestation stops feeling like effort. You're not climbing uphill anymore. You're living in a new city, breathing a new air, speaking a new language, and the timelines that once felt out of reach are suddenly the only ones that make sense. But how do you actually rehearse this? How do you train your nervous system to adopt a new identity until it becomes automatic? That's where the toolkit comes in. If identity is what locks you onto a timeline, then rehearsal is the bridge that makes that identity stick. The nervous system doesn't shift because you decide once. It shifts because you consistently give it new evidence of safety, of possibility, of belonging on a different station. Think of it like training a muscle. You don't lift once and call yourself strong. You return again and again until the new baseline becomes natural. So let me give you a toolkit, a set of practices you can return to daily to help your body adopt the frequency of the identity you want to live from. First tool, bridge statements. Instead of jumping from I'm broke to I'm a millionaire, which your nervous system rejects as unsafe, you create a bridge it can believe. For example, I'm learning to feel safe with money. Or, More opportunities are beginning to open for me. These aren't just words. They're ways of turning the dial one notch at a time, letting your body register the shift without panic. Second tool, somatic anchors. Choose a physical gesture that your body can associate with safety and alignment. It might be placing your hand on your heart, standing tall with open shoulders, or pressing your feet firmly into the ground. Use this gesture whenever fear arises. Over time, the nervous system pairs that movement with the new identity, giving you a shortcut back to coherence. Third tool, embodiment drills. Spend a few minutes each day moving and breathing as if the identity were already yours. If you're rehearsing abundance, walk across the room with the posture of someone who feels supported by life. If you're rehearsing love, let your breath soften as if you're already safe in connection. The body doesn't distinguish between rehearsal and reality. When you embody the signal, it broadcasts now. Fourth tool, micro-rehearsals in real life. The nervous system learns fastest through repetition in everyday moments. So the next time you check your bank account, pause and breathe as the identity of someone who is supported. When you speak in a meeting, let your voice carry the tone of someone whose ideas are valued. These tiny rehearsals accumulate. Each one tells your system, this is who I am now. Put together, these tools form a mini protocol. Bridge the thought, anchor it in the body, embody it through movement, and rehearse it in daily life. And I'd love to hear from you. Have you noticed that moment when you stopped gripping so hard, and suddenly what you wanted started to flow in? Tell me your story in the comments. Your shift might unlock someone else's leap. Now, tools are powerful. But even with the right toolkit, there are obstacles that can sneak in and scramble the frequency. The good news? Each one carries its own key to transformation. Even with the right tools, there are 3 obstacles that almost everyone encounters on the path. They sneak in quietly, and if you don't spot them, they'll keep your dial wobbling between stations. The good news is that each one has a simple way through, if you know how to reframe it. The first is urgency. Urgency tells your body, it has to happen now or I'm not safe. The problem is, urgency is the survival station in disguise. When your system is broadcasting pressure, the frequency becomes jagged. The signal isn't, I'm aligned, it's, I'm desperate. And the field reflects that back with more waiting, more delays. The antidote is to flip urgency into presence. Instead of I need this now, shift to I can hold this moment. A single breath into your belly, feeling your feet on the ground, tells the nervous system, we are not in danger. Presence steadies the signal, and what felt urgent loses its grip. The second is split signals. This happens when your conscious mind says one thing, I want abundance. But your subconscious identity whispers the opposite, I don't deserve it. That split creates interference, like trying to play 2 stations at once. The way through is curiosity, not force. Instead of suppressing the whisper, you bring it into the light. Ask yourself, what part of me still believes it's unsafe to receive? Then, give that part a bridge statement or a somatic anchor. Integrate it instead of fighting it, and suddenly the broadcast becomes one clear station instead of static. The third obstacle is over-control. This is the habit of micromanaging every step, demanding to know exactly how the outcome will unfold. Control feels safe to the survival system, but it actually blocks the wider intelligence that organizes timelines. It's like grabbing the radio dial and refusing to let it settle. You never hear the music clearly. The solution is rehearsal of surrender. You practice letting one small thing be unplanned each day. Maybe you leave your phone behind on a short walk. Maybe you try cooking without a recipe. These little acts of loosening grip signal to your nervous system. Uncertainty is survivable. And once that lesson lands, bigger manifestations can arrive through paths you never would have scripted. Urgency, split signals, over-control. They're not failures. They're just static. And each one, when recognized, is an invitation to clarity. Every time you shift through them, you strengthen your broadcast. So how do you take this clarity beyond practices and obstacles and actually weave it into the way you live, moment by moment, step by step? The most powerful shifts don't happen in the big ceremonial moments. They happen in the ordinary spaces, when you're walking down the street, eating your lunch, answering a message, brushing your teeth. These are the hidden arenas where your nervous system either confirms the old identity or rehearses the new one. Integration is not about what you do once a week. It's about how you carry coherence into the fabric of daily life. Take something as simple as walking. Most of us walk with our minds elsewhere, lost in thought, scrolling, rehearsing anxieties. But if you tune into your body as you walk, something changes. Feel your feet pressing into the ground. Imagine each step locking you deeper into the frequency of your chosen identity. If you're calling in abundance, walk with the steady rhythm of someone already supported. If you're calling in love, let your shoulders relax, your chest open. Each step becomes a broadcast, or eating. Instead of rushing through meals in survival mode, what if you treated each bite as proof that you're sustained, nourished, safe? This doesn't have to be dramatic. It's about presence. The nervous system learns that life provides. That lesson embeds far more deeply than repeating "I am abundant" on autopilot. Even in conversations, integration is possible. Notice your tone, your posture, your pace of speech. Do you shrink back into an old identity, or do you let yourself embody the frequency you've chosen? Speaking from a grounded chest, holding eye contact for one extra beat, or allowing pauses in your words, all of these transmit coherence. And the people around you will feel it, often without knowing why. The beauty of integration is that it doesn't require extra time. It doesn't add hours of rituals. It weaves into what you're already doing, upgrading each moment into a rehearsal of your identity. Over time, the nervous system stops distinguishing between practice and life. The new frequency simply becomes how you live. And here's the hidden gift. Once coherence starts to infuse your daily rhythms, manifestations stop feeling like separate events. They become the natural byproduct of who you are. Money flows in while you're cooking dinner. Opportunities appear while you're laughing with a friend. Love deepens in the pauses of everyday conversations. It stops being about waiting for the big moment and starts being about living the frequency right now. But what happens when this integration expands beyond your private routines and starts reshaping the bigger domains of your life? That's where the ripple effect becomes undeniable. When coherence becomes your baseline, the ripple effect reaches far beyond your private experience. It starts to transform the greater domains of your life, the way you connect with people, the way you express your creativity, even the way your body heals. Because when your nervous system broadcasts safety and alignment, every system around you begins to reorganize in response. Let's start with relationships. Most people try to fix relationships by changing what they say. But the truth is, what shapes connection isn't just words. It's the frequency your body is transmitting underneath them. When you're coherent, others sense it instantly. Your presence feels calming instead of grasping. Your words land without defensiveness. Conflicts diffuse faster. Love feels safer to give and receive. The nervous system doesn't just regulate you, it co-regulates everyone around you. Now, creativity. Have you ever sat staring at a blank page, trying to force inspiration? That's the survival station creeping in again, shutting down flow. Here's scenario number 3. You're at your desk, deadline looming, cursor blinking. Panic rises. You start thinking, what if nothing comes? That frequency collapses the timeline of block. But if you pause, place your hand on your chest, breathe, and retune the dial, the nervous system resets. Suddenly, ideas begin to surface, not because you wrestled them into existence, but because coherence opened the channel. Inspiration lives on a station that only safety can access. Health shifts too. When your body stops firing survival alarms, energy once trapped in stress becomes available for repair. Digestion improves, sleep deepens, the immune system strengthens. This isn't magic. It's biology working the way it was designed to, supported by the frequencies you now live on. Your body is not separate from manifestation. It is one of the clearest mirrors of the station you've chosen. And purpose. Perhaps the most profound ripple is that when you broadcast safety and coherence, you begin to sense direction more clearly. Opportunities that align with your calling seem to appear out of nowhere. What used to feel confusing suddenly feels obvious. This is my next step. Because the static has cleared, you can finally hear the music of your life path without distortion. The expansion is real. It starts within, but it doesn't stay there. It multiplies into relationships, creativity, health, and purpose until your entire field begins to look like a different reality. But there's one final dimension to this process that ties it all together. It isn't just personal. It isn't just psychological. It touches something larger, something deeply spiritual. And it carries a paradox that rewrites everything you thought you knew about strength. At some point on this path, you begin to sense that what's happening isn't just psychological. It's not only about nervous system regulation or shifting identity. There's a deeper current beneath all of it, a larger intelligence responding to the signal you send. Call it the quantum field. Call it life itself. Call it the mystery. Whatever name you use, you can feel it. Once coherence is established within you, the outer world moves with you, as if something greater has joined the dance. This is where the paradox reveals itself. We're taught that strength means control, that manifesting is about bending reality to your will. But the real strength is in surrender. Not collapse, not passivity, but surrender as alignment. Trusting the intelligence that organizes galaxies to also organize your path. Think about it. The same force that orchestrates tides, seasons, and the stars does not suddenly forget how to guide your life. When you soften into coherence, you stop wrestling with reality and allow that larger rhythm to carry you. Surrender is what allows the nervous system to rest. It tells your body, I don't have to know every detail. I don't have to micromanage the how. My job is to broadcast the frequency, to embody the identity, and to stay open. The rest unfolds through a field far more intelligent than my conscious mind. And here's the paradox. The moment you let go of control, you gain real influence. Because instead of scattering energy in resistance, you concentrate it in resonance. The universe doesn't respond to struggle, it responds to coherence. And coherence is born the second you stop gripping. This is why so many breakthroughs feel like grace. You practice, you rehearse, you hold the frequency, and then, seemingly out of nowhere, the right person appears, the opportunity drops in, the timing aligns, but deep down you realize it wasn't random. It was resonance. You had finally tuned into the station where that reality was already playing. At this stage, manifestation stops feeling like a trick and starts feeling like communion. It's less about making things happen and more about allowing yourself to be moved by a field that knows exactly where you're meant to go. And that leads us to the final step of this journey, bringing everything together, landing it in one simple, powerful image, and leaving you with a method you can carry forward every single day. When you look back, the thread becomes clear. Every struggle you faced, the silence after a message, the fear when a bill arrived, the blank page staring back at you, wasn't proof you were failing. It was your nervous system asking for a reset. The old identity had locked you on a station filled with static, and every practice you've learned here has been about gently turning the dial until the music of a new reality could come through. Think about what happens when you finally tune a radio perfectly. For a moment, it's faint, almost fragile. Then suddenly the sound clicks, the station locks, and the music fills the room as if it had been waiting all along. That's manifestation. The frequency you've been chasing wasn't out there. It was always playing. Your job was never to invent it, only to become coherent enough to hear it, embody it, and live inside it. And here's the miracle. Once the dial clicks, you don't need to force it anymore. You wake up inside the station. Love feels like home. Abundance feels natural. Creativity feels inevitable. The nervous system no longer fights the new timeline. It relaxes into it. And because your signal is steady, the universe keeps echoing it back with precision. This is the quantum manifestation method, healing your nervous system so that the frequency of your desires becomes the baseline of who you are. Not chasing outcomes, not forcing timelines, simply embodying the signal until reality has no choice but to mirror it. So as you walk back into your day, notice the dial. Notice the subtle choices, the breath you take before reacting, the way you stand when you enter a room, the story you tell yourself when silence appears. Each moment is a chance to steady the signal. Each breath is a chance to lock the station. The music is already playing. The only question is, are you tuned in?